Well, here we are. After 9 episodes of secrets, sacrifices, and Gilead doing what Gilead does best, making everyone's life absolutely unbearable. The Testaments has reached its finale. And if the penultimate episode left you emotionally wrung out, episode 10 is not about to let you off the hook. So let's get into it. When we last left things, Becca had been carted away by the eyes. Agnes was drowning in guilt over the role she played in that. And Daisy was carrying her own heavy weight, the knowledge that she's the one who set everything in motion by exposing Dr. Grove. 3 young women, 3 separate crises, all colliding at once. The finale picks up every single one of those threads, and honestly, it pulls them tight. Let's start with Becca, because her situation is the one that's most immediately dire. She's being held in prison, restrained, and from what we can tell, she's not fully present singing to herself, unresponsive to those around her. When Aunt Lydia comes to see her, even she can't break through. And that's saying something, because Lydia is not exactly someone you ignore. But here's where things get interesting. Lydia sits down with Commander Judd, and the picture becomes a lot clearer. Dr. Grove was already earmarked for execution by Gilead. His crimes had caught up with him regardless of what Becca did. So in a twisted way, Becca didn't alter the outcome. She just got there first. Lydia makes her case accordingly. But Judd isn't moved. His solution? Becca becomes a handmaid. The wall is the alternative. For Lydia, this is unthinkable, one of her own girls reduced to that fate. Judd makes clear the courts will have the final say. And in doing so, he also makes clear that his alliance with Lydia is over. The cracks between them have become a canyon. Meanwhile, Agnes is barely holding herself together at school. She breaks down to Garth and then goes directly at Aunt Vidala, demanding to know what the aunts are actually doing to protect Becca. The usual Gilead platitudes aren't landing anymore. Agnes has seen too much, and she's done pretending otherwise. Then Commander Weston pays her a visit, and in a moment that takes real courage, Agnes uses it. When he asks how she's doing with their wedding on the horizon, she tells him. She tells him about Dr. Grove, about what he did, about the fact that Becca was protecting her. It's a staggering thing to admit, and Agnes knows the risk she's taking. Weston listens. He's clearly shaken, but he says he'll try to help. And he does. Becca is brought home temporarily, under surveillance, with a court date looming, but she's out of that prison cell. It's not a resolution, but it's something. The engagement, though, is off. Weston pulls out, and while Agnes's father is confused, Agnes understands exactly why. By telling Weston the truth about Dr. Grove, she handed him a scandal he wants no part of. The wedding is collateral damage. Her father, for what it's worth, tells her he'll look after her, and there's something quietly touching about that. But then Paula gets involved. In the middle of the night, she corners Agnes, calling Becca fallen, tarnished, the usual cruelty dressed up as concern. And then she lets something slip. Something about Gilead wanting to make June pay. About Agnes's father standing in the way. It's a fragment, but it plants a seed in Agnes that won't stop growing. Which brings us to Daisy, who has her own reckoning happening in parallel. After Garth tells her Mayday can't help Becca, she draws a line. If they won't act, she will. She quits. And then, through a hidden message in a honey jar, the kind of tradecraft that would feel absurd anywhere other than Gilead, she's given a location. She shows up at a dock in the middle of the night and comes face to face with June. Elizabeth Moss, back in the flesh, and the scene between them is everything. June's there to get Daisy out. Daisy's there to fight for the girls she's come to love. They're at cross purposes, and neither of them is wrong. But then Daisy mentions Agnes. She doesn't know she's talking about June's daughter. June, however, does the math immediately. She listens as Daisy describes Agnes, her courage, and her spirit, and you can see June trying to hold herself together. Daisy goes back. June lets her. Back at school, Daisy uses her confrontation with Aunt Lydia to make one more push. She asks Lydia what a mother would do for her child, whether she'd do anything, whether she'd die, because Lydia, whatever else she is, isn't indifferent to Becca. So Lydia and Vidala pay a visit to the Grove home. And here's where the episode does something genuinely unexpected. Lydia rewrites what happened. She says it was Mrs. Grove who killed her husband. That Becka was never involved. Vidala backs the story, and Mrs. Grove, in one of the episode's most quietly devastating moments, accepts it. She confesses to a murder she didn't commit in order to give her daughter a future. That future turns out to be marriage. Agnes goes to Garth in the night, and the ask she makes of him is enormous, and she knows it. She's asking him to marry Becka, to give her the protection of that status. And he agrees. The ceremony and Mrs. Grove's execution happen on the same day. The show cuts between them, the vows and the hanging, and it doesn't flinch from what that contrast means. Gilead gives with one hand and takes with the other always. Garth carries Becka into their new home, still sedated. And when she stirs, he closes the door and locks it from the outside. It's an image the show leaves you to sit with, and it's not a comfortable one. Afterwards, Agnes and Daisy have a moment alone. Agnes says it was worth it. Daisy tells her that's exactly the kind of thing her mother would say. And then she tells her about June. Not everything, but enough. She tells Agnes that her mother was the handmaid. Her name is Hannah, that she was never really Agnes at all. We watch a hit, and then we see Agnes, alone, go to her hidden bag of keepsakes, the small, secret archive of herself that she's been keeping all along. And there it is, a folded drawing, a name in the corner. Hannah. She remembers. She's always remembered. June, for her part, find a jar of honey on her doorstep. Inside, Daisy's message. She's not going home. She's building something. Because, as she puts it, nothing on earth hits harder than a teenage girl who's made up her mind. The final image of the series is the three of them, Agnes, Daisy, and Shunammite, walking side by side, fingers linked through the school corridor. Gilead still surrounds them. But something has shifted. Something is beginning. And that is how Gilead ends, not with a bang, but with three girls clasping each other's fingers. The finale of the Testaments didn't hand us a clean victory. It gave us something messier and more honest. Survival dressed in a wedding veil. A mother confessing to a crime she didn't commit, and a jar of honey carrying more hope than any weapon. If that's not Atwood to the core, nothing is. Agnes Hannah remembered all along. Daisy quit Mayday, started something bigger. Becka was saved at a cost no one should bear. Aunt Lydia chose the girls again at the final hour. June found out her daughter is brave. Left a jar of honey on the step. If you love this breakdown, hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Catch you in the next one.